Hello, friends of Canadian Women for Women in Afghanistan, members, chapters, and supporters joining us for the 2021 Virtual Annual Symposium. Thank you for being with us and for taking the time to dive into this video about some of our recent advocacy work. There has never been a more crucial moment to raise our voices in solidarity with Afghan women and girls and defending their basic human rights. My name is Sarah Keeler, and I am the Engagement and Advocacy Coordinator for Canadian Women for Women in Afghanistan. Today, I want to share with you a little bit about our most recent advocacy campaign, which we launched on October 11th, the International Day of the Girl Child, as a response to the Taliban policy announced on September 17th, which has barred girls over the age of 12 from attending school. As of October 23rd, adolescent girls in Afghanistan have now been denied the basic human right to education for 36 days, with no end in sight. Within a week of that ban being announced by the Taliban, and in a characteristically opaque way, our organization released a statement, but straight away we all felt we needed to do more. As leaders in advocating for educational access for women and girls in Afghanistan, and particularly in a Canadian advocacy context, Canadian Women for Women in Afghanistan has an important role to play. And this means that supporters and members like you also have an important role to play. Your words and actions have influence. We were inspired by the bravery being displayed by young boys and children across Afghanistan who began participating in a quite spontaneous social media campaign, posting images of themselves vowing not to return to school until their sisters and girls everywhere could join them. And you see such an image here in this slide. This is exactly the sort of thing that we talk about when we say that our advocacy work needs to center Afghan voices and amplify the efforts of Afghans themselves. We're in a supporting role taking their lead in our advocacy. This particular campaign is also a wonderful opportunity to remember the importance of men and boys as allies in the fight for gender equality, and in fact that a lot of the negative assumptions about Afghan society are not based on fact. Fully 87% of Afghans, men and women alike, support equal access to education for women and girls. It's an important cultural value in 2021. So, taking our cue from these Afghan children, our campaign calls on concerned Canadians of all ages to speak up in solidarity with the approximately 5 million Afghan girls affected by the current ban. And there are a number of ways you can become involved, which I'll describe more in a little bit. Before I do, though, I want to address a question that we hear a lot, actually. Sadly, we are all hearing about the fear and suffering engulfing Afghanistan at the moment. If you attended the live keynote given by our Senior Director, Murwarid Saeed, or even if you follow the news closely, you'll have seen some sense of the levels of poverty and hunger now affecting Afghans. So at a time when Afghanistan is facing humanitarian crisis, why focus on education? Aren't there other, more important things to worry about? Why does this matter when people are going hungry? The answer to those questions is one that requires us to take a big picture view, but it's also one that's at the root in many ways of solutions to those problems. The facts are undeniable. When you educate a girl, her whole community becomes empowered with the benefits of her learning. Educated mothers raise healthier children, and infant and maternity mortality rates decline dramatically. Household and community poverty levels are reduced, and with each additional year of schooling that a girl receives, her earning capacity increases by nearly 4% in future wages. This, in turn, enhances economic stability and even climate change resilience. And Afghan girls themselves are change makers, running with the opportunities made available to them over the last 2 decades. They've enrolled to take university entrance exams in record numbers. They've come top of the ranks, and they are tackling fields from medicine to computer engineering, literature to international relations. Their aspirations have become so robust that in a recent survey we completed for a UNESCO project, fully 100% of elementary school age girls that we surveyed aspired to achieve university. Something has taken root in young Afghan girls. It's clear that educating girls provides whole society benefits, and that without these benefits, Afghanistan will face a deepening humanitarian crisis. The two, education and humanitarian crisis, are indivisible. If we don't continue to push the global community to keep their eyes on this benchmark, and to in turn push the Taliban, the effects for regular Afghans will be yet more devastating. Afghan girls are change makers, and what's more, they know it. I love this short poem that inspired one of the social media posts from our campaign, attributed to a 15-year-old Afghan girl. The fierceness and the anger are really brilliant. This is why the first key message of our current campaign centers on the benefits of education and the risks to society as a whole if access is restricted based on a misogynistic system of gender apartheid, as is currently happening under the Taliban in Afghanistan. Those key messages are: restricting girls' access to education puts all Afghans at risk. The current ban on girls' secondary education, in addition to violating basic human rights, will have harmful effects on the whole society, increasing poverty, reversing advances in the healthcare sector, and destabilizing an already fragile society. Secondly, Afghan girls themselves are powerful and self-motivated change makers, as we've just seen. The investments of the past 2 decades have seen dramatic results, with Afghan girls themselves maximizing the educational opportunities made available, taking the higher entrance exam in record numbers, and topping national results in the past 2 years. And finally, we, as concerned global citizens, must speak out. Persistent global public pressure is needed to demand that the Taliban, at a bare minimum, reverse their ban and allow girls of all ages to freely access education. So, in order to support you in speaking out, we have developed a whole range of tools available in a public Google folder to support your advocacy. Our published statement on the secondary school ban is a great backgrounder with lots of attached links to that evidence base I talked about earlier. Read it and share it to help raise awareness. There are also a number of social media posts which you can quickly download and post to your account. And don't forget to add the campaign hashtags, which you'll see again later. Those are education is a right, let Afghan girls learn, and 5 million Afghan girls. We also have an infographic poster that highlights some of the data that I've shared with you already about the positive impact of educating girls and what Afghanistan has achieved in 2 decades. This one is designed for use even by very young supporters, but it probably has something new and helpful for all of us.
سلام به همگی. من سیده هستم، محترم صنف هفتم در یک از مکاتب خصوصی در شهر کابل. من در زندگی خود اهداف زیادی دارم. یکی از اهداف من این میباشد که دانشکده حقوق و علوم سیاسی را فرا گرفته و در آینده یکی از سیاستمداران زن در جامعه خود باشم و مصدر خدمت به جامعه خود باشم. اما حالا ما از مکتب باز مانده ایم. من نمیتوانم بعد مکتب بروم و یک آینده ناروشن را در پیش رو دارم و به همین خاطر جگرخونم و خفه‌ام از اینکه نتوانم به آرزوهای خود برسم و دست هموطنان خود را بگیرم یا برعکس من خود وارد دوش جامعه شوم. پس لطفا ما را به درس و تعلیم بگذارید. درس و تعلیم ما باعث خرابی نه بلکه باعث آبادانی این جامعه خواهد شد. تشکر.
We also have some short video clips of young Afghan girls themselves speaking about how they are affected by this ban. Listening to Afghan voices is one of the single most important things we can do. There are real people behind all that data. And here, Cedra beautifully and simply highlights the importance of education for girls like her to empowering and uplifting whole societies. Give it a listen. One of the specific actions we've been inviting Canadians to take, and which has been particularly resonant for educators and young people, is a symbolic walkout in solidarity with Afghan girls barred from their classrooms. Again, this is inspired by the social media activism of young Afghan children themselves, under the slogan, "We're walking out because they can't walk in." Teachers have found the campaign tools and the walkout idea a powerful way to connect their teaching on social justice, global citizenship, and politics to real-world issues. And we thank them for their solidarity. The ways they're taking up the idea of the walkout vary. Not everyone is comfortable with the idea of a full-scale demonstration or march, so some have just taken 5 minutes to assemble their classes at the end of the day for a photo, then shared to social media. And that's the whole idea. We want for these resources to be adaptable. In fact, you don't need to be a student or a teacher or affiliated with a school to take part in this advocacy. Individuals can also snap a selfie with our poster template and post to social media, or arrange an autumn walk with a group of friends to raise awareness and share our campaign slogans and hashtags on placards. Another idea inspired by this amazing artwork by artist Gabriela Araujo is to simply take a photo of an empty chair in your home or anywhere and post that to your social media account. Portraying that absence and what stands to be lost is powerful in its own right. So just another example of how broadly we can interpret the idea or symbol of the walkout. It's really that show of solidarity and raising the alarm in your own networks that matters the most and will ensure we keep our eyes on the human rights of Afghan girls. Again, the campaign hashtags are 5 million Afghan girls, let Afghan girls learn, and education is a right. It's really important actually to include those hashtags in any social media post because they will allow us to track the reach of the campaign. So really helpful. Even if you're not someone who is able to participate in a walkout, symbolic or actual, there are many, many actions each of us can take that will make a difference and continue to shed light on the human rights violations being perpetrated by the Taliban against adolescent girls. Some examples are included here, and I've already mentioned some of them, like simply reading and sharing our public statement, which has helpful background reading. Some other ideas which will help amplify the campaign and the issue of the school ban include reaching out to media in your community. Write a letter to the editor of your local paper and urge them to cover this important story. If you are an alumni, staff, faculty, parent, grandparent, or other person affiliated in any way with an educational institution, ask that institution to release their own statement of solidarity with Afghan girls. Share the campaign tools with them and offer to connect them with Canadian Women for Women in Afghanistan staff if they need information or further support. Many school board and universities in Canada have equity or human rights offices, so this is a really good place to start. Now, something else that we often hear is people asking, what's the point? Does my advocacy really make a difference? The short answer is yes, in several ways. Because you are continuing to stand up and say enough in a variety of ways, whether it's through participating in a letter writing campaign, organizing a march to raise awareness, penning an op-ed in your local paper, or even just talking with friends, family, and groups you're part of, you're keeping the spotlight on human rights in Afghanistan. And this is what we really need right now. You're also reminding our elected officials that this is an issue Canadians care about. By holding them accountable too, we're demanding action. You're helping our organization gain the ear of those decision makers. And perhaps as important as all of these, your visible solidarity is a powerful reminder to girls and women in Afghanistan that the world cares, that we will not turn our backs. You're helping to bolster their activism at a time when they might otherwise face isolation, and that in itself is powerful. You are making a difference, so please keep it up. So there you have a whirlwind tour of our current advocacy campaign centered on adolescent girls' access to secondary education in Afghanistan. Please keep in touch and feel free to reach out with ideas, questions, or suggestions. We want these campaigns to be yours as much as ours. You're an important part of this work and we want to hear from you. Again, I'm Sarah Keeler and my email, which you can see here, is community@cw4wafghan.ca. Please reach out. A reminder that you can find the campaign tools in the link here or via our website on the Advocacy tab. And you can subscribe to our newsletter if you haven't already, as well as following us on social media. Thank you so much for joining me for this presentation.